Alright, today we're going to take a look at Alarielle. She's one of the High Elves. She's got some pretty substantive changes in SFO from her vanilla version. So we're going to take a look at some of those. We're going to begin with a look at her Lord and faction effects. Hang on. So here we can see this is the SFO version on the right hand side, and then the vanilla version is this one here. So bonuses when all of Ulthuan is held by High Elves. This hasn't really changed. If the inner ring is breached, she's some pretty significant penalties, but there are good bonuses once all of Ulthuan is controlled by High Elves. Doesn't have to be her. She still has a reduction in intrigue costs, so your influence is more effectively used, and she still has the tree spirit uses here. The only real change here is going to be this spell resistance for the Lord's army, and 25% missile strength for Sisters of Avalon and Handmaidens instead of the 15%. So nothing major in these terms. Most of her major changes in SFO come on the actual game. So if we look in the Gaian Veil itself, for those of you unfamiliar, she can also recruit tree spirits. This also unlocks one of her technologies, which we'll take a look at. But you're probably not going to be recruiting a whole lot of tree spirits. Not necessarily that good compared to the units that she can get. She can't really buff them very well. And they have taken some changes in SFO from regular, which we'll address in a tree spirit video later on. She does have access to the Maiden Guard, which are an upper tier Sisters of Avalon, but look how much higher this recruitment is. It's 5th tier. Her Sisters of Avalon, of course, come from tier 3. In other High Elf factions, they come here at tier 4. She has its own building, much in the way that the Shadow Walkers and Shadow Warriors for Alethanar are on their own. She has them to herself. The rest of this is pretty much the same way that it is with the traditional High Elf organization. So let's take a look at Alarielle herself.
Of the
she does start with the Horn of Isha, which is a reload skill and melee attack. You're going to want to put that probably on the Sisters at the beginning. And she does have the Banner of Avalon, which now, instead of just having power recharge, also has regeneration. And so let's go and take a look at Alarielle herself, because she's got some really important, significant changes. The one that I noticed quite quickly was this one here. She has this passive presence of the Everqueen. She has healing, she has flame resistance. So not only does she have generative healing for those around him, she also provides flame resistance, anybody in 40 meters. So she can now stand within her own troops and provide regeneration, much in the way that a vampire lord would, but obviously for different reasons. So this is very nice. She comes with spell mastery here. She comes with magical attacks, and she's immune to psychology. And then there are a lot of new little icons for the High Elves you have to notice here. Augment of the Winds for her, so she has that constantly. And then this one here, Arcane Mastery. So she has been buffed quite significantly, which is very, very nice. Her skill tree has become a little bit different. She has this radiant 3 levels of cooldown to her spells for all armies in the province, attrition, all her own armies, and then miscast base chance. Remember, in SFO, miscast for all spells. Then you can see here there's percentage steps up in increasing the strength of this all the way down here. She has a dual line, much like Tyrion does. This is a beneficial one, and this one here is a combat one. There are some minor changes to some of these. Let me just bring up my list here. So tradition dictates control and income from provinces. That's pretty much the same. You can see here now that leader at the court has 2 levels. It used to just have 1 level. 15 relations with High Elves and 10% local buildings. but now you can get a second tier with 20 with high elves and 20 for local buildings. Remember, one of the things you can do with Alarielle is run around to each of your provinces and regions and provide a buff. Now, she's not necessarily providing herself as a combatant when she's doing that, but on her way through the Empire to get to other places, she can buff, and we'll see another way that kicks in later on. We have Servant of Isha here. This is slightly improved. The original first level was 1 extra capacity for handmaidens and 1 extra rank. Now it's 1 and 2. And then this has gone from 2 handmaidens and 2 rank to 2 handmaidens and 4 rank. So that's a nice improvement. Spiritual Defender used to provide -6 corruption, -1 recruitment turn for sisters, and 5 melee defense for sisters. And now we've got a second level where you get 8 corruption, 2 turn duration for Sisters of Avalon, and then plus 10 for Sisters of Avalon units. I'm not sure how that -2 turns for Sisters of Avalon units works. All provinces, so that helps out with global recruitment for everybody, because Sisters are normally 3. They're normally 2 turn recruits, but her having this allows everybody to get them in 1. So this line here is probably not the one that you're going to choose. This is normally the one that everybody chooses, in the same way that everybody chooses the unifier line for Tyrion. Blood and Fire, 5% upkeep to her army and 5% movement. It's nerfed. It used to be 10% upkeep, so again there's even less reason to get this. The Beacon of Hope is now 2 tiers. Instead of leadership of 6 and a melee of 6, it's tiered into 3 and 3 here, and then the 6 and 6 here. So this is reduced, it's slowed down. In the Gifts of Isha, we've got 5% ward save, 5% casualty replenishment rate, and 10% armor. That used to be 6, 4, and 10. And then there's a second tier, 10, 10, and 20. And then finally, Guardian of the Land. This used to have 15 cooldown, 15 wins, and 9 melee attack, and you can see now it's 10, 10, 5. That's a nerf, but there's a second tier that's more. These are the only 2 places in her skill tree, as far as I know, I haven't looked at everything, where she can boost the Forest Spirits. If you look in here, if we search for Forest Spirits, we can see that the only location where Forest Spirits get a buff is in those 2. So she didn't get that added here, which would have been nice to incentivize her using the Forest Spirits. Again, I can't see why you would use Forest Spirits. She does have increases and changes to her skill tree, a tech tree. This is pretty much the same as all the other high elves, including this addition of influential advancements. But now all the high elves have this top tier with a secondary currency. At least Tyrion has a secondary currency. You can see this here's her Gifts of Isha. For him it's Bloodline of Anarian points. These are upper level late game buffs. You can see the monetary costs are pretty significant. And then you have these entry fees here. Many of these techs require a building in order to open them also. Gifts of Isha capacity, so you can hold on to more of them. This one here, Corruption, Life Bloom for all characters. Remember, Life Bloom is the skill that resurrects everybody on the battlefield while you're casting life magic. So that's wonderful. I assume that means any kind of magic, casting a spell. So giving Life Bloom to people who aren't life mages, pretty impressive skill. So that's really quite terrific. Casualty replenishment rate, and there's a generative Gifts of Isha, so spending Gifts of Isha and money to generate more Gifts of Isha, in the same way that you can use buildings to generate influence. Attrition, growth, and more Gifts of Isha. And then research rate, 10% right cost reduction in Gifts of Isha. So these are allowing you to build those late game armies that you're going to need, and steamrolling your power. Under Vengeance, physical resistance against Dark Elves. So this is going to be once you've invaded Nagarond, because you'll have cleared out the Scourge of Cain likely by that time. Again, ward save when fighting Norska, the bad guys. Gifts of Isha, again, lots of Gifts of Isha all over here. Spell resistance, the one that opens it. Ward save for Alarielle and gifts capacity. Okay, ward save for Alarielle, gifts of Isha capacity. But as mother, ammo for sisters, sister buffs here. Vigor loss for handmaidens. Well, they've got all the heroes listed there. That's interesting. Those are not handmaids. Interesting. And then here, recruit rank for sisters. So this is the sisters boost. Up here in purity, ward save for Alarielle. And again here, ward save for Alarielle. So she's going to get 8 ward save if she got all those. I don't know if these lock one another out. Hit points for all characters. Magic item drop, 25%. That's really huge. And winds of magic cost, -2 for lore of life. Here we have fire resistance for Dryad Treekin, so we can finally buff those forest spirits. Not that fire is going to be that much of an issue. Missile resistance and fire resistance. Here we get casualty replenishment rate, physical resistance, and then finally weapon strength. So she can, through the tech tree, make some buffs that would have been nice to see in her skill tree. So this mechanic still works. You can see she's pretty much handicapped here. Once she removes these 2 Dark Elf territories, this will get better, but they do control areas out here, remember? And then don't forget, Noctilus is going to invade and smack this around and this around, so she can be pretty badly handicapped at the beginning. Now this is where her gifts of Isha are tracked. See the high trust in Alarielle and the power of nature, and then technologies. So technologies, we've seen that you can get gifts of Isha each turn. High trust is going to come from this once she increases that. And then if you look in here, you can see here the power of nature. For 9 turns, this region is generating influence, growth, control, winds of magic, corruption, and gifts of Isha. So of course, as she spreads out her domain, she's going to generate those gifts. The gifts themselves, remember, pretty much used to unlock some of these tags, and then cash unlocks the rest. So overall, some very, very good changes. I found in fighting some battles that you can make absolutely terrific use of this. She can make her front line of infantry much, much stronger by replenishing them. 0.505% per second is not necessarily that good, but it does reduce the rate of model loss if everybody's gaining a little bit of hit points back. And then if she can get that life bloom for everybody down here in the research tree, where was that one? There it is, life bloom there. That's really, I mean, and of course it's expensive, because life bloom for any spellcaster anywhere on the map is quite terrific. Alright, thank you very much, and we'll get a forest spirits one specific up later that will apply to both her and to wood elves.